Thank you, Cece. So without further ado, our special guest this evening, Radhanath Swami, I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of years ago in Laguna Beach. And prior to meeting him, I read his book, The Journey Home. It took me all of about 2 days to finish front to back. It was so good. You just start reading it, you get done with the first chapter, and you just keep going and going and going. It's kind of like reading the Indiana Jones of yoga. It's action-packed, it's nail-biting, cliff-hanging. And I'm done with the book, and I'm like, wow, what a journey. I wonder where there's part 2. And he was speaking at Golden Bridge on Friday. I heard actually there is a part 2 coming up, so this is exciting news. There's a lot of yogis in the room, and I know that there's a lot of people in teacher training. Just out of curiosity, if you're practicing yoga or you're a yoga teacher trainer, would you raise your hand? Just get an idea. Great. I just want to acknowledge each and every one of you for taking on this sacred path. I consider it to be one of the most important and essential endeavors that we will undertake as human beings, living a higher conscious lifestyle. And, you know, when we start practicing yoga, sometimes we think, oh, it's about how long we can do a handstand in the middle of the room without falling over. But we soon come to realize that it's much more than that, and no better person to teach us about yogi than Radhanath Swami. He lives, breathes, and eats yoga. Every thought, every word, every action is a devotion to the divine. And not only does he devote himself to the divine, he does it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we are so fortunate to be blessed with his presence, and I invite you to be open and receptive to the deep spiritual teachings that Radhanath has for us. And if we could just give him a great, big, huge, warm welcome. Radhanath Swami.
Jnananjanasalakaya chakshurum jena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Aschatya Desatharine. Thank you very much. I am deeply grateful to be with all of you this evening. A special gratitude to Radhini for so kindly inviting me. She not only invited me, dragged me here by force with the formidable ropes of her affection. This little Swami could not listen. I had so many other things to do, and she said how happy she would be if I come. In my own little way, I tried to orchestrate the universe in such a way that I could. And I'm here. Thank you very much for inviting me. For the wonderful, huh? Sisi. Can you hear?
Yes.
She very systematically kept the volume down while I was speaking about her. This is the nature of a yogi. I remember many years ago, precisely 42 years ago, I was in the Himalayan mountains, living as a Zach. And I was living as a homeless wanderer, seeking truth, fulfillment, and purpose in life. And one yogi sat next to me and told me a story. He said, "Should I tell you a story that will scare you?" I said, "Please." He said, "This is a story which illustrates the nature of a true yogi." I guess I have to ask you the same question. Should I tell you a story that may scare you? He said, once there was a yogi sitting on the bank of the Ganges River, and he happened to see a scorpion drowning in the river, going downstream, struggling for its life. The scorpions don't swim so good. It was drowning. And the yogi reached down into the current of the river, picked up the scorpion, and the scorpion stung his hand, and it was so painful. He dropped the scorpion back in the water. Then the scorpion again was struggling and drowning, and he reached in his hand again and picked it up. He got stung. And the pain caused him to drop the scorpion again. And he picked up the scorpion a third time. Meanwhile, somebody was watching this. And he said, "What are you doing?" And the yogi reached down and picked up the scorpion again. And it stung him again, but somehow or other he threw him to the shore. And the scorpion didn't even thank him. Just crawled away. So this person watching said, "Why did you do that? He was stinging you. Why did you keep picking him up?" The yogi said, "You don't understand. The nature of a scorpion is to sting. And the nature of a yogi is to show compassion to those who are suffering." So from the very beginning, I had quite a deep conception of what yoga was about. Yoga is the science of harmonizing the body, the mind, with the living force, the Atma, the soul. Yoga is the art of harmonizing our own consciousness, sensitivity, with our true self, with nature, and with the true self of all living beings, and with God. Where there is that connection, that harmony, we actually find true happiness. And in that happiness that we excavate from within, we can become empowered to be instruments instruments of the power of grace way beyond our own, in which we can help others to find that same happiness. The body is a sacred vehicle. The body is a means by which we can express the great wealth of the heart into the world. But when we forget that wealth, when we forget who we are, what we have, then we try to find it in so many other places. There are many great literatures called the Vedas, which are the ancient, timeless scriptures of India. And there's a Brahma Sutra, or Vedanta Sutra, which is considered to be the summary study of all Vedas in very short codes, which reveal such deep, essential truths. And one of these aphorisms is Anandamayo Bhyashat. Ananda means ecstasy, deep pleasure. Everyone's nature is to seek ecstasy, whoever we are. Whatever our caste, whatever our religion, whatever our sex, whatever our nationality, whatever our age, whatever our social status, or whatever our species. I remember the first day I was in India. Did I talk about this last time I was here? No? I don't want to have too many reruns. But I was with a lifelong friend named Gary. We began a journey together in the suburbs of Chicago. He convinced me I must come to Europe with him. I didn't want to go. But as soon as he told me that somebody else would pay for me, I was convinced. This was in 1970. So we took a cheap flight, $65 something, to Iceland. How many of you have been to Iceland? And then it went on to Luxembourg. And the first day, our donor was robbed. So we were on our own. And ultimately, I decided to go to India. And I left poor Gary alone in an abandoned cave on the island of Crete, which is near Greece. It's part of Greece today. He was very upset I was just leaving him. I said, come with me. And he said, hitchhiking to India? I'm not going. But I went. So it took 6 months, ultimately, to reach India. And finally, when I arrived, my first day, I was in New Delhi. I'll never forget that. I was walking down this incredible street. It's called Chandi Chowk. Have any of you been to Old Delhi, Chandi Chowk? It's really crowded. It's a culture shock for someone from a suburb of Chicago. There was monkeys jumping around, and there was cows walking around, and there was hogs, and there was goats, and there was hundreds and thousands of human beings, and there was rickshaws, and there was ox carts, and there was all kinds of stalls right on the street selling powders and paints and incense and clothes and all kinds of really, really exotic foods. There was music blaring and people dressed in turbans and saris and all sorts of colors. I was thinking, oh God, I'm in India. Because I had just hitchhiked through Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Middle East, and it wasn't so colorful like this. And somebody came up to me and said, "Where are you from? What is your educational qualifications? Why have you come to India?" So I was politely answering his questions. And he said, "Would you like something to drink? A healthy refreshment?" I said, yes, of course. So I hadn't eaten in a couple days. And he brought me to this little shop. I sat in the shop, and this man, I saw, he just had this really old, torn up cloth wrapped around his waist, and he was wearing nothing else. He was a really big person. And he started rubbing something against a rock, and it became like a brownish green. And he scraped it with his finger off the rock into a glass. Then he dumped some water in the glass. Then he took some powder and put it in and stirred it up and gave it to me. I didn't know what it was. And my friend, my host, he said, "This is very nutritious and it is non-alcoholic." So I drank it. And it was a weird taste. I've never tasted anything like it. But the thing is, I was seriously thirsty. And he said it was good for me. And it was the first thing I ever tasted in India, so this was like a historical moment. So he said, so I drank the whole thing. He said, "Would you like more?" And he ordered another one. I drank it. I drank 4 glasses of it. And then he said goodbye. And I went back into the streets, and I'm bumping into all these people, and I'm walking. But before I left, I said, "What is this?" And he said, "This is called bong." I never heard the word before. Bong, it sounds quite like it would sound good. So I walked for a few minutes, and then bong. I was totally intoxicated. I didn't know that it was a resin from cannabis, a hashish and marijuana plant, in liquid form. And I didn't know at the time that 1 glass of that makes you totally stoned. I drank 4 glasses. And previously, when I was in Afghanistan, I was in a den of these hashish addicts, and I vowed to never take intoxications for the rest of my life. Here I was. Can you hear better? Okay, there is censored from the story. So, it was terrible. I became totally paranoid. Absolutely disoriented, and cows are walking into me, and hogs and pigs are walking into me. And goats are poking me with their horns, and rickshaws are bumping into me, and people are I'm bouncing through people. And I just wanted to get out of there. I started thinking everyone is looking only at me. And a lot of people actually were looking at me. It wasn't a total hallucination. I was hallucinating, but that was not a hallucination. Because here I was a 19-year-old American boy with long hair halfway down my back, and I was just bumping all over the place, totally intoxicated in Old Delhi. And I just I felt like I was dying. I just wanted to get to the end of the road. Somehow I wanted to get to the end of that road. I saw several blocks down, there was an incredible ancient stone fort called the Red Fort, built by Shah Jahan. I think it was in the 15th or 16th century. So I finally made it there. And then the bomb was actually raising to a higher peak of intoxication. And I saw this little old man playing this gourd instrument. He was blowing into it. And it was making this really hypnotic music. And then this big man with a red turban and black clothes, he opened up these baskets surrounding the instrument. And snakes started coming. Cobras. They raised their hoods. They were kind of going back and forth. Looked like they were dancing. And I was thinking, this is really India. Because I wasn't only on the spiritual quest, I was also, in my own way, I was sightseeing. Even though I had no money and I had no companion, I was interested in understanding different cultures and different traditions and different lifestyles. I heard about snake charmers. Now it's for real. I'm seeing snake charmers. And then that big guy with the turban, he picked up the lid of one basket and took out this gigantic, thick serpent. And everyone kind of moved back. There was a circle of maybe 100 people watching all this. And then he came up and wrapped the serpent around me. It was some kind of constrictor. But he went from my waist and he circled around my arms like this, and he circled around my neck, and his face was right in front of my face. He looked in my eyes, and his tongue was going flittering in and out, this forked tongue, and he really looked like he didn't like me. So, do you want to hear the story? I said, but I don't have any rupees. And the man, just very casually said, then he will stay on you, and walked away. And meanwhile, it became a real attraction. More and more people started coming around and watching this American boy with a snake around him. And I guess about a half hour, I remember thinking if my mother and father were to see me today, they would not survive. I didn't know if I would. Finally, some very nice old man bargained with him, gave him 10 rupees, and the man chanted a mantra. This big snake man chanted a mantra, and the snake came into his arms, slithered into his arms, and then he put it back in the basket. And I ran across the street. Because I didn't want to see the next act. I was thinking, this is my first day in India. I risked my life so many times to come there. And then I saw people eating some candy. I never saw candy like this. It was really a strange looking red kind of candy. They were just like... I was exploring what people eat, and they say, would you like one? It was in Hindi, and yes, of course. I was really hungry. And so they put, my mouth was on fire. Something I had never seen before in my life. It was a red hot chili pepper. And I ate the whole thing at once. I never tasted one before. And I started crying, and I felt like my breaths and my ears were melting. I was perspiring, and they were all laughing at me. And I ran away. And anyways, gradually the bong subsided, and I was sober. And I was walking down that same old street. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't know anyone. I was just walking, just wondering what destiny would bring me. So another man came up to me and asked me, "What is your name?" Same old questions. And he said, "Would you like dinner?" I said, "Yes, I would love dinner." I was really hungry. All I had all day was bong and a chili pepper. Took me to the Sidewalk Cafe, which was kind of, everything was like Sidewalk Cafe. It was just tables on the roadside. And he ordered something, and then the food came. And while I was sitting there, something very special happened. There was a cow, a beautiful white mother cow, glistening eyes. And she was with her little calf. The calf was jumping around and playing, and the mother was licking it and trying to keep it safe. It's just right in the middle of the street, in a city of about 10 million people. And the calf was so playful and so sweet, and the mother was so concerned. She was constantly looking at the calf and getting up to protect it from danger. And finally, the cow sat and laid down just inches away from where I was sitting. And the calf started drinking the cow's milk while she was laying, and the cow was licking the calf, and the calf was licking the cow. And I was thinking, because in my life, brought up in northern Illinois, it's the closest I had ever been to a cow and calf. Otherwise, you're driving down the highway and you see them in pastures for the distance. And I was thinking, what a beautiful relationship of motherly love. And I was just charmed by them. And every now and then, the calf would come up and start licking me, and even chewing on my pants. And I was thinking, she likes me. I'm very affectionate. Then the food came, and I'm eating. I was really eating, I was hungry. And my host said, "Would you like to know what it is?" I said, "Yes, please." He said, "This is sabji, vegetable. This is dal, lentil soup. This is chalo, rice. This is chutney, condiment." And I said, "What is this on the rice?" He said, "This is meat." I was looking at the cow. It was the first time in my entire life I made the connection. The cow was looking at me, the calf was looking at me, I was looking at them. And it was also it was almost a supernatural kind of situation. I was thinking back when I was a little boy. I grew up with a dog named Kippy, a German Schnauzer. He lived 16 years old. So my whole childhood, from 4 years on, he was the only person in the family that everyone got along with. We'd all fight, but nobody fought with Chippy. And we had a nice family, a very united family, but still, families. And I just made the connection. But this mother and this child, they love each other, maybe not with the sophistication and the intelligence that I have, that humans have, but they love their life, and they have deep affection for each other, and they feel pain like the rest of us. And I'm eating. I became so affected that I started to cry. And my poor host, he didn't know what was happening. He said, "Mr. Richard, is there something wrong?" And I stood up, pushed my seat back, and said, "I'm feeling sick, I have to go." And I walked a couple steps, and the cow moved her head over and licked my hand. And I petted the cow, and then the little calf started bouncing its nose off me and looking at me and playing with me. And I left. I'm walking down the street with this connection. I didn't know where I was going. And suddenly, I walked right into two people that I traveled with in the Middle East. And I saw them in Kabul, Afghanistan. And they knew me, that I never had a place to stay. So they said, "Would you like to stay with us?" And I said, "Sure." And they took me to the roof of an old hotel. And we slept on the roof on these little pieces of ropes wrapped around some wood. They were called beds. And that night, I'm not going to go into the details, but I had many dreams about that cow and calf. And it was on that night that I decided that I will not eat meat again. From there, I went up to the Himalayas. So these were some of the that was my first day. It was not something that tour guides will expose you to. It was the life I was living. And this is what I understood about yoga. That yoga is about learning how to find that eternal spiritual essence within each other. The Bhagavad Gita tells, Najayate Mayate Bhakarajit, that the living force that animates this body, that sees through the eyes and hears through the ears and touches through the fingers in the body, thinks through the mind, loves through the heart, that living force that is the true you and me is the Atma. It is Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. And everyone is looking for bliss because it is our nature. But when the ahankar, or the ego, causes the Atma to think that my true identity is this ever-changing mind and body, then we seek pleasure in the things of this world. Yoga is about finding that real pleasure within ourselves in prema. According to Bhakti Yoga, the ultimate pleasure is not just liberation from suffering, but it's the positive realization of our natural dormant love for God. when I was a young boy, this word God really confused me. I didn't know if I wanted to believe in it or not. Because I was taught that God is a loving God. But I saw in the name of God, there was so much hatred, so much hypocrisy, so much violence, prejudice. I was born Jewish, a minority religion. People of other religions hated me. Why? I never even said a word to them, but they hated me. Just because of the way I was born. In the 1960s, the civil rights movement was there. Even religious people hated people because of the color of their skin. Not to speak of the conflicts between Islam and Judaism and Christianity, and the conflict between Hinduism and Buddhism over the centuries, and the Sikhs and the Hindus, and so many things. I remember one time I was giving a class in college. And somebody stood up and said, "Everything you are speaking, I reject." And everybody clapped. He said, "While you are talking about peace and love and God, you can't put the two together. The only way this world could ever be peaceful is we have to, once and for all, outlaw and destroy all conception of spirituality and religion." He was serious. He was convinced. He said, Sikhs and Hindus are fighting, Buddhists and Hindus are fighting in Sri Lanka, Muslims and Jews are fighting in Israel, Catholics and Protestants were fighting in Ireland. He went on and on and on about all the hate and violence in the name of God. And long before that, I realized in my own life, I had to either reject it all, or there must be some essence within all these great religious systems that is beautiful. And I read the lives of so many great saints, and they had very, very common, universal characteristics of all different traditions throughout history. Srimad Bhagavatam, so I said to them, so I answered the question. That if we attach ourselves to the superficial external forms without understanding the purpose of what those forms are trying to get us to do, then they divide us. But they are meant to actually bring us. Yoga, religion, they both mean to reconnect us to our own heart. Yoga comes from the word yuj, which means to reconnect, to reunite. Religion comes from the Latin word religio, which means to bind back. They mean the same thing. To clean the ecology of the heart. When we water the root of a tree, then that water extends to every part of the tree. The leaves, the flowers, the twigs, the branches. When we find that love of the divine, of God, Krishna, the name of God that we use, a prominent name of God, in the Eastern scriptures and saints, Krishna means all attractive, all loving, all sweet, all beautiful. The more we connect, the more our natural, spontaneous love awakens. And when that love awakens, to whatever degree it does, then we see that every living thing is part of Krishna, part of God. The testimony of love of God is unmotivated love for every living being. Not how many verses we know, not how many sermons we can do, not how much charity we can give. The real testimony of our love for God is how we are instruments of compassion and love to every living being. And the great yoga masters like Patanjali, that was what they were teaching us. How to harmonize our body, this sacred instrument, in such a way, our breath, our mind, our consciousness, so that we can reconnect Ishvara Pranidhana, reconnect with that most beautiful experience, that blissful experience of our true nature. And to give that love wherever we go. That's the opportunity. And what greater need in the world is there than this? People who have found real compassion. When we just try to be compassionate on the basis of some mental adjustment, it's generally very difficult to maintain unless we have a very strong foundation. In the Bible it is said like this: build your house on a foundation of rock. If you build your foundation on rock, your house, then storms will come and everything will remain. But if you build your house on shifting sand, when the storm comes, everything will crumble. In the same way, our values, our integrity, our dignity, if we try to build it on the shifting sands of just mental conceptions, when the storms of temptation, fear, then so do our values. What is that foundation? Yoga provides us the opportunity to build the foundation of our values, our peace, our happiness, our love, our service to others, saving, on the foundation of truth, on the foundation of an inner reality. That is who we are. And what we're meant to be. And we're eternal. We're full of knowledge. And love of God is within us. And love for all beings, compassion, is our nature. And that's where we find real happiness. You see that sage who was picking up the scorpion, while he was being stung, on a physical level, that was a pretty serious storm, wouldn't you say? How many of you have been stung by scorpions in your life? Please raise your hand. Well, it really hurts. It's like a lightning bolt. But for him, although it was paining him, he was feeling ecstasy, because in his heart he was feeling his love flowing toward a helpless being. What is real pleasure? Real pleasure that touches the heart can only come from love. Things, sensual experiences, can give some pleasure to the mind and senses, but only love can touch the heart. That runs within us. The deeper we go into yoga, the more we connect together. It's like yoga's like that golden bridge that brings us back home to our true self. Yoga awakens within us the core power. It's the golden bridge that connects us to the core power. Yoga unites other yoga institutions. Core, the very core. Core means the center, the essence. What is our core? Krishna explains for those who have true intelligence. They find their happiness within, they find their pleasure within, and they rejoice in that core. And when we connect to that core, there is unlimited power. The power of compassion, the power of love, the power of forgiveness. That core power can transform us. Transform greed to generosity, hate to love, envy to compassion, darkness to light, confusion and depression into certainty, truth, happiness, arrogance into humility. It is that type of transformation that the heart is yearning for. I'm going to tell you another scary story. This took place about the 12th century. One of the greatest saints in India's history, his name was Radhanath. Have any of you heard of him? Even today, he has hundreds of millions of followers, especially in South India. And now South Indians are all over the world. And there's so many temples built and maintained by his followers. That temple in Malibu, that's Ramanuja's followers in that temple. Maintained. Ramanuja had a guru, and he said, I want you to go to another guru who lives about 100 miles away, and you should get this mantra from him, because it will really, really help you in your spiritual life. So, Ramanuja, in those days, there was no buses or trains or planes or cars. He just walked. He walked 100 miles to get to this village of this woman. I was just there last year. The house, all the places I'm about to tell you about, you can visit them. I'd love to take you. So first, see if you like the story before you finish. So he went to the Guru, his name was Gosti Purna. And he said, my own Guru, Mahapurna, has asked me to receive this mantra from you. Gosti Purna said, you are not qualified to receive this mantra. This is a very, very sacred mantra. I don't give this mantra easy. And Ramanuja was so sincere. He said, I deeply would be indebted if you would give me this mantra. It's my Guru's wish. He said, let me think about it. Come back another time. So he went 100 miles back home. A few days later, he walked 100 miles back. And Gosti Purna said, I'm still thinking about it. Come back another time. He went back and forth 17 times. He was determined. Now, 200 miles round trip, 17 times, for those of you who are mathematically inclined, he did a lot of walking. Bare feet. Because we shouldn't take things for granted. I mean, sometimes we just get a mantra and somebody gave me this mantra. But these mantras work, whatever your consciousness is. But the effectiveness of how deeply they affect you is very much determined by how much we value them. That holds true for everything. If we just see a saintly person and the wisdom of a saintly person as just another person talking, we get some benefit. But if we really value that person and are grateful, you see, the heart is like a field. And knowledge, wisdom, enlightenment is like a seed. Even if it's a good seed, if the field of the heart is very hard and very dry, the seed is not going to take its roots very well or grow. But the heart is very soft and very fertile. Then we can make incredibly rapid spiritual progress by putting the water of our spiritual practices and our good behavior. Gratitude very much softens and fertilizes the heart. Ramanuja was so grateful. He valued this so much. One of the students of this guru came to him and said, I had just been to Sriranga where Ramanuja is living. And I saw he was crying. He himself has so many disciples, tens of thousands. But he was crying because he felt himself so unqualified to receive this mantra. So a few days later, Ramanuja came. And Gosti Purna said, I have never given anyone this mantra because it's so powerful that anyone who chants this mantra will become liberated from all sufferings, will awaken their love for Narayan or Krishna. Another name for Krishna is Narayan. And will be forever. I see in this world you are the only person qualified to receive it. I will give you the mantra if you vow to me you will never, ever reveal it to a single person throughout your life. Ramanuja promised, and he gave me the mantra. Would you like to hear it? Let the story progress. So Ramanuja was crying in such gratitude. He received the mantra, he chanted it, he was feeling the ecstasies of this beautiful mantra. Please understand, because he was so receptive, he got this instant experience. And then he bowed to his guru and left to go back to his home. As he was walking, he saw all these people all around. Some were enjoying, some were suffering, some were trying to enjoy. Just the regular life of people. And because Ramanuja had tasted the sweetness of this prema, this love, he saw everyone as his brothers and sisters. Everyone. And his heart was like a volcano erupting with desire to make everyone happy. It is said a saintly person or yogi, their quality is paravita. That means another person's happiness is my happiness, and another person's suffering is my suffering. That's actually a form of ecstasy because it's built on the foundation of love. Even unhappiness is ecstatic when it's built on the foundation of spiritual love. So Ramanuja was seeing everybody around, and he couldn't control himself. He called out in a very loud voice, I have a treasure, the greatest of all treasures that will make you wealthy forever for the rest of your lives. I want to give it to everyone freely. People like treasures, especially here in California. He said, everyone come to the local temple at noon. So everyone, thousands of people, the word spread. They all came to the temple. And Ramanuja got on the roof of the temple. The very place he stood is still there, because there were thousands of eyewitnesses to the story. And everyone was eager for the treasure. He said, by chanting this mantra with a sincere, devoted heart, you will be free from your sufferings in due course, and you will taste the sweetness of ecstatic love for Narayan. Everyone, repeat this mantra as I chant. And at the top of his voice, with all of his heart, he cried out the mantra. And all these thousands of people with grateful hearts at the top of their voices, they responded and chanted the mantra. Now that the secret's out, would you like to hear the mantra? Raise your arms. This is the way Ramanuja did. Everyone raise their arms. He said, everyone call out from your heart of hearts with great sincerity. Such happiness seeing everybody. They started embracing each other. They started touching each other's feet with respect. They realized that they have just received the highest of all treasures. The key that opens the treasure of the heart. That's within all of us. That's what these mantras do. That's what the sincere practice of yoga. Bhakti means the yoga of devotion, the yoga that the practice is the key that opens that treasure of the heart. And there's such an unlimited wealth there. We can share it with the world, and the more we share it, the greater it gets. Pray the treasure of love. Meanwhile, his guru, Purnam, he's sitting in the room and he's hearing thousands of people chanting the secret mantra. He was outraged, beside himself with disappointment and anger at his disciple. How could he do this? He has just taken the vow. And Ramanuja, you know what he did? Now most of us, because this Gosti Purna was a very, very powerful mystic yogi. He had very deep powers. Most of us would probably, after getting thousands of people to chant it, we would run away. He went right back to the room of his guru with folded palms and said, "Thank you, Guru Dev." And Guru Dev was not thankful at all. He said, "Get out from here. I never want to see your sinful face again. You have promised me, and you defied your word. And the sacred mantra that has been secretly kept by the greatest sages and rishis for thousands and thousands of years, you have given it indiscriminately to the public. For this defiance, you will suffer hellish conditions, birth after birth after birth." He was quite mad. Ramanuja, with tears in his eyes, he said, "My dear Guru, that's fine. You told me that whoever chants this mantra is going to get love for God, love for Krishna, Narayan, and be happy. If a little person like me has to suffer hellish consequences, birth after birth after birth, in order to give all these thousands of people such spiritual eternal happiness, that's a small price. I'm honored and grateful to do it for them." At that point, Gosti Purna, his guru, started to cry. And he said, "Ramanuja, you are better than me. You are great. I am small. Now you are my guru, and I am your disciple. Because today you have taught me what real yoga is about. Being an instrument of compassion." And he embraced Ramanuja. And Ramanuja touched his guru's feet and said, "Today I am supremely fortunate because you have embraced me." This is a very beloved story. You see, Maya, or illusion, makes us think that our selfish demands will satisfy us. Human evolution is what brings us from the need to take things to the joy of giving. And what is the greatest thing we can do? The para upakara. To give people the understanding and the experience of this divine love, this Krishna prema that is within all of us. There was a book I heard about when I was a child, about a man who was told, he was a young man, that his father had died and left him an inheritance of a priceless treasure. And the whole book is about him traveling from place to place, town to town, village to village, state to state, country to country, getting leads, trying to find that treasure. And ultimately, while he was abroad, he died, and they shipped his body back, and in his backyard, they dug his grave. And while digging, they found the treasure. That's the story of life. We're groping and searching so many places for happiness. But our real happiness is within, in giving it to others. Now, these stories that we're telling are about very, very great people. And obviously, we cannot imitate them. If we try to imitate them, we probably won't survive. But it's an example that we can put on the altar of our aspiration. These qualities, these virtues, this realization. This is real health. This is real success. And this is where real fulfillment lies. And it's within us all. Such a beautiful potential. And the great yogis have actually established the different systems of yoga for the purpose of gradually bringing us to this realization, this understanding, beyond birth, beyond death. I often tell this story that within each heart there are two dogs, a good dog and a bad dog. The good dog represents kindness, contentedness. We can be absolutely enthusiastic, determined to do our work, but with integrity and compassion and love and humility. And the bad dog, greed, anger, envy, arrogance, selfish lusts, and illusion. The good dog is forgiving. And both dogs are barking, trying to get our attention. Barking what they want because they are hungry for our attention. The Bhagavad Gita explains that in every mind there is divinity and there is illusion. Yoga means feeding the good dog. Have you heard these two dogs in yourself? Well, many of us really have fed that bad dog with so much food. He's really powerful, really strong, he barks really loud. And sometimes the good dog can't bark so much. Through the mind, through the senses, through the ego, the bad dog is barking. And the good dog sometimes is sorry, I've been trying to hold these things back. Pretend for very long. You ever had this experience? You don't have to raise your hand. There's people right over here. You can just ask yourself in your heart, which of the dogs is going to win this battle? The one we choose to feed. by every choice we make at every moment in our life. And the choices we make are the present moment. We have a tendency to procrastinate. You know, that dog's really barking loud. And my senses and my mind, they really are in tune with that bad dog. And let me just feed it. When I get older, then, the good dog out. If you want to make spiritual progress now, in the present, the eternal present moment, if we take responsibility for our choices in the present moment, we can nourish our divinity. We can nourish that love and hurt. And the more we make that choice, the bad dog just wags its tail. And you want to know a secret? If you feed the good dog enough, the bad dog becomes a good dog. So we all have responsibility in our lives. Responsibilities to God, to Ishvara within our hearts. Responsibility to our family members, our friends, our family, our society. Responsibility to the ecology, Mother Nature, who provides us all the gifts that sustain us at all times. Responsibility to all living beings. And the deepest, most profound, fulfilling experience of life comes to the degree we understand that responsibility. And we really try to clean the ecology of our hearts. And we really try to be instruments of peace. Even in the workplace. I live in Mumbai. In our congregation, there are many thousands of people. We have monks who just live on the floor of an ashram, have no possessions, nothing. And we also have industrialists and business people who are owners, CEOs, presidents of international corporations with tens and thousands of workers, and they have massive properties. We have people who are bankers, people who are farmers. We have people who are scientists, PhDs. We have simple people who just do menial services. A lot of software technology, software engineers. In fact, from our temple in Bombay, we have a whole bunch of them living here in Los Angeles. And we have little children from orphanages. Every different type of people. And everyone equally, whatever we're doing, can access this grace and be an instrument of that grace in whatever we do. It's not that being poor is a disqualification. It's not that being rich is a disqualification. Should I tell you a little story and then I'm going to end because I know I'm talking too much and you're all very hot and probably very tired. But I think I woke you up with the bad dog. That's one of the techniques to keep your audience awake. Let that bad dog come out. Sometimes it gets out of its leash and everything. But we have a farm in Maharashtra. It's an eco-friendly farm. We invite all of you to come. It's a beautiful place. We have an organic farm where we grow our own food. plow the fields with very nicely protected oxen with our friends. And we have several thousand fruit trees, mango, chiku, guava, papaya, that. And we grow several tons of rice, different color rices. Because in India, traditionally, before the British came and kind of made everything more generic, they had different rices to cure different diseases. And there's only a couple places in the whole country that still have those kind of rices. And we got the seeds. And we have about 20 different of these rices. Some are purple, some are green, and some are red. They're very nice rice. And we also have a retreat center. And we built it with bricks from our own soil in a very, very nice way. It's very beautiful, actually. And we have one man. He got his PhD in eco-friendly sewage management. And he got his PhD at IIT, the Indian Institute of Technology. It's out of about 300,000 applicants a year, they accept about 2,000. My father taped a show on 60 Minutes. Was that CBS or something like that? And it was about IIT in Bombay. And there was a very wealthy billionaire Indian man who said he tried to get his son in IIT, but he couldn't get him in because his son didn't have good enough grades. So as a second choice, he put him in Columbia University in New York. Anyways, this person got his PhD in IIT. And he actually set up his project in our farm. It's quite amazing. Every drop of water that goes into the toilet and all the stuff that gets mixed with the water, I'm not going to go into details. Sometimes I do, actually. But all the excrement, human sewage, it goes into the toilet and it goes into this big, it's like a container. It's made out of natural bricks. And all that water, when we look at it, it's brown and it's green and it's yellow. It's serious sewage. And through gravity, there's no electricity. Are you interested in this story? Through gravity, it goes through these different rocks and stones and different types of herbs and weeds and stuff, and it's going down, 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 until it comes to the end of this holding tank, and it's clear water. And then it goes into another holding tank, and through gravity, it's going down that very gradually. It's going through all these different herbs and different types of stones and different types of other natural ingredients. And by the time it comes to the end, it's pure bacteria-free water. It's been tested. It's totally pure water. If you want, you can. We have a lot of sewage in our hearts. We have a lot of sewage in our minds. We have a lot of sewage in our egos. And if we want to actually live in harmony with nature, live in harmony with other living beings, and live in harmony with ourselves and Krishna, God, we need to process that sewage. And yoga practices, chanting our beautiful mantras, we chant this Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Called the Mahamantra. Cleanses the heart, removes the sewage from the heart. All of the selfish, egoistic desires. It empowers us to do beautiful things through our words, through our example, through our life. And I'm so grateful to Guru, to Gayatri, and all these wonderful people who are helping people to understand these principles. And I thank all of you very, very much. Special gratitude to my dear Sister Rach. She just sings from her heart. She sings from her soul. And because she sings from the soul, it touches our soul. Very grateful. Thank you very much. Sorry if I talk too long.
We're not long enough.
But you never gave me the time to end.
So we have a book table out back. You can get his book, The Journey Home. And he'll be available if you'd like to get it signed or just have a few words with Maharaj. We'll be here for a little while. So thank you all so much for coming. For those of you who are not from Core Power, we offer a free week of yoga. So come back, it's heated, just like India in here. But we love to have you, and thank you for your attention, and have a beautiful evening. Namaste.